Give me 1 second, everyone. Apologize. Give me 1 second. Let's see if this audio sounds crystal clear. All right, yeah, the audio sounds pretty good on my end. Hopefully it sounds good on your end. Ooh, what is going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. Yeah, as you could tell, I don't sound the most enthusiastic, and I don't think many people watching this are. We got some interesting stuff to talk about in today's stream. Obviously, in today's stream, we are going to be covering the unfortunate New York Mets, and I got the Braves jersey back there. The unfortunate New York Mets and Atlanta Braves series summarizing what went wrong. I know I always say the good, the bad, and the ugly, or good, the ugly, and the bad, but it's usually just the bad and the ugly. Nothing really good came from this series. So we're going to be going over what happened, what went wrong in that series. Then, of course, we are going to transition into the New York Mets and the Washington Nationals series summary, the Mets' final series to play this regular season. So we're going to be going over that. Then, of course, we are going to get into your guys' comments, questions, and concerns. So do not hesitate. I see we got the chat pumping out, and I appreciate that. So if you guys have any questions, any comments, just stand by for 10, 15 minutes. Let me get my little series summary and preview, and of course the rant that will be coming, and then of course I'll get into all of your guys' comments, questions, and concerns. So yeah, obviously the Mets had one job to go into this Braves series and at least take one. But I don't really think I need to go over what happened. The Mets lost all 3 games of this New York Mets and Atlanta Braves series. Getting things started, obviously, game 1, which was Friday's game. Tensions were high. Obviously, a lot of Mets fans, including myself, were very confident going into this first game. Obviously, I think it's very important taking the first game in a series like this. And who yet better to have than Jacob Degrom? Obviously, Degrom did have an unfortunate outing his last appearance, so a lot of Mets fans were hoping that he would get back into his groove, and his outing was kind of complicated, I guess you could say. Getting things started, he went 6 innings, giving up 5 hits, 3 runs, 0 walks, 11 strikeouts. 86 pitches, 58 of those were in the strike zone. Degrom, listen, he had a pretty good outing. I know those 3 runs really killed him. Obviously, those back-to-back home runs in the 2nd inning by Riley and Olsen got him, and then in the 6th inning, Swanson homer. So, like I said, it's not like he was giving up a lot to, it's not like he was giving up a lot of light contact, a lot of hits to the opposite field. Just those 3 long balls, I guess, covered too much plate, and this Braves lineup took much advantage of that. And like I said, I feel Degrom had a decent outing. I mean, you look at those 11 strikeouts. I mean, only 5 hits. He didn't walk a single batter. The high strikeout to walk ratio is definitely favoring Degrom. It's just Degrom did not get any run support whatsoever. Let's just say hypothetical. The Mets scored 7 runs for Degrom. No one would be talking about, oh, Degrom did bad. He only did bad is because he gave up 3 runs and his offense did nothing. So, I mean, overall, just a really unfortunate way to go. Most likely, this is going to be Degrom's last start. We'll get into that in a little bit. But, yeah, things just unfortunately didn't click so well for Degrom this game and the offense, obviously. Following that, Tyler Mcneil came in. Mcneil going 2/3 of an inning, giving up 3 hits and 2 runs, 19 pitches. I hate to shit on Showalter, but this move right there blew the game away. Putting in Tyler Mcneil, a dude who has not had it at all since returning from the IL on the multiple stints he's had, and you're in a high-leverage situation where it's, at this rate, a 1-run ball game, and you put in Tyler Mcneil to pretty much blow the game away. I get it. The Mets going into this game wanted to kind of preserve their bullpen depth, but then you put in Trevor May right after that to finish off that inning to strike out the guy. I just don't understand it. And then following that, to finish this game off, you put in Dolly Rodriguez, who had a clean outing. So, I mean, yeah. Get into this offense, and then I kind of want to summarize this game a little bit more in depth. In terms of the offense, only 2 runs, 8 hits. Getting things started with the run creation. Luis Guillorme had an RBI single to left center to bring in Jeff McNeil. And then for the last and final run of this game in the 8th inning, Tomas Nido had a solo home run to right center, 406 feet. So good to see Nito at least, getting on a little bit of a tear. But overall, horrible game. What went wrong? I think there was 3 things that really killed this team: the limited offense, Buck Showalter, and his unfortunate managerial decisions for the bullpen. And just, I really do hate to complain about Degrom. I think it's something that we've really seen a lot from him in his career as the run support. And, I don't really think this was a loss that was on Degrom. I think where I do get a little frustrated with Degrom is when he came out. Obviously, he came out after 6 innings. That pitch count was definitely a little still low. Maybe he could have went another inning, considering Tyler McGill came in and really blew up this game. If anyone's, I know I don't really care for win-loss record, but if anyone's getting the loss, it should be Tyler McGill. Obviously, Jacob Degrom did leave his appearance after the 6th inning because of a blister. And, listen, it's really unfortunate that decision came for him. For a guy who is in his free agent season, it's really unfortunate that he didn't want to go out there and push to fight like hell for his team. This guy, when healthy, is the best pitcher on the planet. No doubt about it. I think everyone could say it regardless of what fan base you're associated with. And simply enough, Degrom leaves because of a blister. If you really wanted to fight, it's not like it was, something with your elbow or your forearm or anything that was related to an injury. You really wanted to fight, you could have stuck it out. I don't see a lot of other, in the postseason. We've seen so much of this. I've never seen a guy like Madison Bumgarner or any other postseason, Cy Young caliber guys leave a game because of a little blister. They tough it out. Really unfortunate there. I obviously don't, I feel bad for Degrom. I hate to shit on him. He's a legend, but this game overall was rough. You really saw how much this Braves team relied on the long ball. 3 homers translates to 3 hits and gave them the 5 runs they needed. Keep in mind the Braves had the same amount of hits as the Mets. It's just they actually did, they drove them in. The Mets got plenty of guys in scoring position and just stranded them. When I'm seeing, Francisco Alvarez, for example, 0 for 4, his first game. It was rough. Canna, 0 for 3. Lindor, 0 for 4. Great to see him step up. It's just very frustrating. At least good to see Mcneil go 2 for 4. Escobar, 2 for 3. Nimmo and Alonso got, some hits. I'll take that. But it's just very hard to defend some of these guys in situations when it matters most. 9th inning, we know how the 9th inning ended. Kenley Jansen came in. Kenley Jansen really struggled this outing. He's been a guy who's been inconsistent in that closer role. Gets the bases loaded with 1 out. Obviously, Escobar strikes out. You have Francisco Alvarez come up. Or no, Escobar gets on base. Francisco Alvarez comes up with 1 out, acting, Buck. Why is no one pitch hitting for him? It's mind-boggling that no one pitches, that no one goes into pitch hit for Alvarez. He's 20 years old. He's in arguably one of the biggest games of his life, with the exclusion of the playoffs, in a big moment, bases loaded. Deep double to the gap is going to give the Mets the go-ahead run and give them a lead. This isn't a Disney movie. He's not going to, be the hero, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But like I said, the Braves, we don't see, what the Braves, their rookies have been phenomenal this season. They came up and they have torn the baseball. Vaughn Grisham, Michael Harris Jr., the second, whichever one he is. First game, Grisham hit a home run in Boston. Michael Harris, 300 average plus hitter. What are our rookies doing? Vientos is batting like 150. He has like 2 hits in the game he's played. Alvarez going 0 for 8. What are our rookies doing? I get it. Nick Plummer. Okay, he had that one in the first game he started. He had the go-ahead home run against Philly. But what has he done since? Last I checked, I think he was designated for assignment, and he's in a different organization. So it's just really, really frustrating. So yeah, Mets blow game 1. Not surprised. Mets lose 5-2. Getting into game 2, a game that I fell asleep, actually, and that was probably a smart idea for me to fall asleep. The Mets lost 4-2. We had Mad Max shirt. We had Max Scherzer on the bump for the New York Metropolitans. And yeah, Scherzer, 5 2/3 of an inning. Obviously, nine hits, 4 runs, 4 strikeouts, 101 pitches. Scherzer, he looked okay, looked decent, nothing too crazy, nothing too electric, I guess you could say. He got the job done early on. First 3 innings, he looked good. The Braves were able to tie it up in the 4th, but the 5th inning is where he kind of really had his issues. Like I said, the long ball. The long ball is what this team relies on, and they took advantage of the long ball. Guys like Dansby Swanson homering against Degrom, Scherzer, and Bassett back-to-back-to-back days. They took advantage of it. Simple as that. Point blank simple. And that's what makes ball clubs successful in the regular season. I think in the playoffs, it could be a little bit of a different story. So we'll see how things go for, teams like that in the playoffs. But yeah, overall, pretty unfortunate, I guess, appearance for Scherzer. Nothing, I feel bad, like I said. Obviously, all this would change if the Mets scored 5 runs guaranteed. Just say guaranteed, hypothetical, the Mets scored, let's say they scored 6 runs. Would have easily won the series. Would have run every single game. Let's say they scored 4. Would have won game 2 at least, or tied it, whatever. This team 3 and 2 game games. That's not enough. Following that, Seth Lugo comes in for a 3rd clean outing. Adam Ottavino comes in. David Peterson, Drew Smith. They all have clean outings. A couple hits, but none of them come around to score. Bullpen held down the job. It's just unfortunately Scherzer got beat up with the long ball, something that's happened a lot for him this season. The solo shots have been a killer of him this season, but usually if the Mets are able to, like I said, give him 3 runs compared to a solo shot, that's going to help him out. But the Mets weren't getting any runs. So, it's really hard to, do something against that. So, yeah, obviously Scherzer gets the L. In terms of this Mets offense, once again, 2 runs, 8 hits. I feel like we've seen that before. It's not like we just saw it, I don't know, when I was talking about it 10 seconds ago. Something that is, not very good. Obviously, getting things started with the scoring. It started in the 1st inning. Eduardo Escobar had an RBI ground out to first to bring in Brandon Nimmo. You had bases loaded, 1 out. You really would have liked a base hit. Could have scored 2. I'll take it. It's fundamental baseball. You'll take it. That's what good teams do. But unfortunately, it just was not enough in this 1st inning. So that brought in a run. And then in the 5th inning, Jeff McNeil for the go-ahead run has an RBI single to left center to bring in Pete Alonso. Otherwise, that's it for the runner. That's it for scoring. 8 hits. You would have thought you would have got more than 2 runs. But like I said, the Mets are not hitting for power, and they're hitting for singles. And it's kind of hard when you're only hitting singles to score 7, 8, 9 runs. The Braves, they didn't really hit a whole lot of base hits. They relied on doubles and they relied on homers predominantly. And that's why they only have like 4 or 5 hits. But, a sufficient amount of runs. This game, Nimmo had a decent day, 2 for 4. Alonso, 2 for 3 with the walk. Mcneil 2 for 4 with an RBI. It's a killer. And, when I'm seeing pretty much your 9, 8, 7, and 6 guy pretty much go 0 for a million, Nito 0 for 3, Naquin 0 for 4, Canna 0 for 4, Alvarez 0 for 2. You can't do much with the bottom of your lineup not producing. Listen, the Braves in that game, their bottom of the lineup wasn't doing much, but top of the lineup was. So, I really didn't like the lineup that was produced the first 2 games. I love Pete, but I don't want him batting in the second hole. If anything, the 3rd or 4th. Yeah, McNeil should not be batting cleanup. I get it. He's good for that double, bases clearing double, but no. Mets lose 4-2. Very unfortunate. And then yesterday's game, the final game of this 3-game set, the Mets lose 5-3, a game that they kind of had in the palm of their hands and let it go. What if you? Obviously, Chris Bassett with by far his worst appearance as a New York Met. 2 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, 70 pitches. Bassett looked good the first, the first 2 innings. Besides that solo shot to Swanson, he looked good. He got the 2 strikeouts, got a couple ground balls. but then things really hit for him in the third inning, and he just could not find command of the strike zone, and simply enough, just looked pretty bad. Really, he looked horrible, couldn't find command of the zone. Showalter decided to test him out there with bases loaded, no out, walked in the tying run, and Showalter later went to his bullpen, literally right after things really went bad for Bassett. Like I said, by far one of Bassett's worst outings as a Met. Obviously, I don't know if it was the pressure. I don't know. He just seemingly did not have command of his pitches. He tried mixing up his pitches early on, and it looked pretty good for him. But things just really seemed to hit hard for him in that third inning when he couldn't find command of the zone. Got a couple hits that beat the shift or went in between, some of the infielders. And, yeah, really got to him. And then his command, he just couldn't locate the zone. Him and McCann were trying to figure something out, just couldn't locate on his changeup, on his curve, just couldn't locate at all. Even his fastball, couldn't even throw one down the middle. And, that's where things really got to him. And, yeah, obviously he had to go to his bullpen, Buck Showalter. Obviously, Trevor May went 1 1/3 inning, 2 strikeouts. Good to see May really step up. He needs it. Following that, Seth Lugo comes in for 2 innings, giving up a hit, a run, 2 strikeouts. Lugo going 2 innings. Seemingly, Buck Showalter will not learn that Lugo cannot go 2 innings. I think we've seen that, I don't know, probably 1,000 times this season that Lugo is not capable of going 2 innings. No more of that Louis Rojas 2020 crap where they put him as a starter because that's what messed him up. But, unfortunate that came there. And then obviously Dolly Rodriguez came in for an inning. And of course, Edwin Diaz for the last 2 batters, obviously 4 pitches, 4 strikes. So good to see him continue to show his dominance after not being used a whole lot. You're going to want to keep Diaz fresh. You're going to want to keep him, you want him to be well rested, but, you also got to use him. You can't just have him sitting in the bench and sitting on the, in the bullpen for, 7 straight days. So, yeah, pitching really let the Mets down, obviously giving up 5 runs, 5 hits. But what was more frustrating was the offense. 3 runs, 11 hits. So this team by far out-hit the Atlanta Braves by far. Obviously, they had a good rally getting things started off in the second inning. Daniel Vogelbach had a solo home run to right center, 404 feet. So definitely good to see Vogelbach with some of that power. Obviously, that's what he's known for. We know that early on he's kind of been this on-base percentage guy, and that's great and all, but, he's not your leadoff guy. I'm going to need a little bit more than, some walks from Vogelbach. So good to see him with the solo shot there to tie up this ball game, kind of erase what would happen to Chris Bassett in the first inning. Following that, in the third inning, Jeff McNeil had a solo home run to right, 388 feet. Good to see McNeil with some power. We know he's not a power hitter, but good to see him showing off a little bit. Definitely needed. A couple bats later, bases are loaded. Daniel Vogelbach has a single to right, obviously, to bring in Pete Alonso. So good to see the Mets capitalizing on this third inning to give them a 2-run lead. Obviously, they did have 1 out, runners on the corners, and obviously ESPN and Fox, they were talking about that foul ball that was hit by Canna for probably, 20 minutes they were talking about it. Obviously, it was originally fair, but then Austin Riley let it go foul, and that was an intelligent move, which it was. I'll give Riley props. I don't think many third basemen, especially now in the league, would be cognizant of that. So, kudos to Austin Riley for being cognizant of that. But yeah, obviously that kind of killed the Mets rally there. Obviously, Canna had a little bloop fly. Guillorme obviously didn't do much, and of course, neither did Naquin. So that obviously ended that inning, and then the Mets pretty much went to sleep since. Like I said, it's unfortunate. You see Jeff McNeil go 3 for 5 with a run and an RBI. Vogelbach go 2 for 2 with 2 RBIs. Escobar 2 for 4. Alonso 2 for 3 with a walk. Canna 2 for 4. But like I said, when Lindor is going 0 for 5 in the second hole, and the bottom of your lineup is going, 0 for 3, 0 for 1, 0 for 3, 0 for 1, that's really hard to go against. James McCann, another killer to this lineup. Yeah, we'll get into all this a little bit later. But yeah, Mets lose 3-5. Really unfortunate series for the New York Metropolitans overall. And I guess we'll just go on a 2-minute rant, and then we'll get into that national series and kind of put all this behind everyone, even though it's probably not going to be easy. And this is what I say. Mets had a perfect opportunity to go into the series and boost up what they needed to do. They easily did. They could have easily took 1 of 3, and they still would have had a tie. Took 2 of 3, you're happy. Swept, boom. But unfortunately, the Braves simply just played better. And honestly, the Mets, they did not play well at all. I mean, they had a couple good signs. They showed some light, but had a couple rally killers, had a couple guys that were not able to help them out, and it really killed them. You know, like I say, Braves are, like I said, now they are 2 games over from of the Mets in the standings, obviously. Braves have their 100th win. Mets are at 98. So Mets are obviously 2 games back from the Atlanta Braves. And listen, it was a really rough series to say for the least. Multiple things went wrong, whether it was Buck Showalter's poor decisions on bullpen or taking guys out, whatever. The offense, I think, is definitely a big way to blame. I really hate to attack certain guys in this Mets team, but, when you're seeing guys like Lindor, who are supposed to be your superstars in important games, going 0 for 5 and, 0 for 4 with 2 hard hits and 2 strikeouts, I get it. It's being hit hard, but it's a result-oriented game. Unfortunately, people only care about results. But besides that, it's hard. When guys like Alonso and Lindor aren't having great series, they're the stars of your team. And I'll give a little bit of Alonso some break because at least he got some hits and got on base sometimes, where Lindor just looked completely blind this series. But overall, it's hard when simply enough your key superstars are going to just not do shit. In a series like this, that pretty much means if you're a division or wild card team, and kind of pretty much mean how the playoffs are going to go. Because now they're going to face a completely different team in the San Diego Padres, most likely, than a team like the Phillies, like the Cardinals, which I don't like to go off of, the Mets beat the Phillies a lot this season. Same for the Cardinals. I get it. Mets destroyed Philadelphia this season, going 14-5, and destroyed the Cardinals going 5-2 because they had that extra game. But you could also think about it the other way. 2015, regular season. Cubs went 6-0 against the Mets. What happened in the postseason in the NLCS? The Mets swept them. So I don't like to use that, thinking too much, but, it's something you could think of. But yes, obviously now the Mets would likely go against the Padres, and if they win, go against the Dodgers, which is another challenge. If they are 4 for 3 against them, okay. But, with the Padres, Darvish, he's always been a Met killer. They're going to have him going out game 1. And we've seen Degrom, Scherzer, Bassett. That would be a 1-2-3 punch. We saw him in likely a playoff game this past series. They did decent, but the question is, can their offense do decent? And that's my biggest concern for this New York Mets team in the playoffs is the inexperienced players for the postseason. This team doesn't have much playoff experience. And for the guys that are, their numbers are not great in the playoffs. Whether that's Escobar, whether that's Lindor, and I don't want to hear that he had that grand slam against the Yankees because that was one at bat. Whether that's whoever, it's Vogelbach, Ruff, whoever, Naquin, whatever. So you have those guys, but their numbers aren't great in the playoffs. And then you look at the guys who are your superstars of your team right now, who have never even been in a playoff game. Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil. Brandon Nimmo debuted 2016, but he didn't even play the wild card game, so I don't even want to count that. I get it. You have your guys, like I said, like Lindor, like Escobar, like Marte, who will even be around. We'll see. Like Canna, but their numbers are not the best in the postseason. So, like I said, the offense in the playoffs was kind of my biggest concern for them. Can they be, inconsistency is literally going to kill them because there's less room for error. You only have 4 games, 5, 6, 7 at most. So, yeah. When it comes to this whole Mets-Braves division, mumbo-jumbo nonsense, this is what I say. Tip of the cap to Braves. Tip of the cap to them. They did what any good ball team should do. They came back, they did what they needed to do, and they got the job done. Their offense showed up, their pitching looked good, their bullpen was lights out. They went for the long ball, and it helped them succeed. But this is what I say, when it comes to stuff like Twitter, my best recommendation is I have been using Twitter less and less lately. It's really bad. When it comes to it, all fan bases are foolish to the extent. I just try to avoid Twitter to the best of my ability. But simply enough, when it comes to it, this is what I say, because this is what I do want to address. Mets collapse. This isn't a collapse. I would love to just simply say this. I would love anyone to tell me in the comment section below, or who's rewatching this, how many 98 ball club wins have a collapse? Tell me in MLB history, how many teams that have won 98, 99, 100 wins, let alone 90 wins in a season are considered a collapse? Did the Dodgers collapse because they didn't win the division last year? Giants won 107. Dodgers won 106. Dodgers were in first place for a good amount of time. Does that mean they collapsed? And then what happened in the NLDS? Who won? Who won in the NLDS? The Dodgers won. The Dodgers won in the NLCS, or the NLDS, whatever it was. My apologies. The NLDS. Listen, it's just, it's how it goes. It's baseball. Anything could happen. Simply enough, we could see the Mets and the Braves in the NLCS together. Who knows? But it's not a collapse. You want to talk about a collapse? Talk about the Milwaukee Brewers this season. In June, they were 6-7 games ahead of the Cardinals. Completely wet the bed in the second half. On pace, they're not even to make the playoffs right now. They're 2 games out of it. That's a collapse. Last year's Mets are a collapse. This is not a collapse. So just to get that out of the way, because it's getting a little frustrating when I'm seeing Mets fans and other fans saying that the Mets collapsed. They did not collapse. Yeah. So it's just get that out of everyone's head. So simply enough, I guess that's really that when it comes to Mets and Braves series. It's unfortunate. This is how things went. And, wasn't really the Mets and Braves series that really killed the Mets. Being overall realistic, what we've seen, from this New York Mets team, it was a really bad series, right? Was this series what really made the Mets lose the East? And I think there's a little bit more to it. I think that series against the Cubs really destroyed them. That series against the Marlins, the series against Oakland, against the Nationals. They lost 1 against Oakland. They lost 2 of 3 against the Nationals. They lost 3 against the Cubs. They lost 1 against the Marlins. It was those games that determined the division. They went 6-8 in those teams. They went 6-8 against those teams in September. That's what made them lose the division. You got to capitalize. The Braves, they went on, they beat the teams that they were supposed to. Yeah, they lost 1 against the Nationals. They took 2 or 3 against the Nationals. Why couldn't the Mets do that when it was needed about a month ago? Little stuff like that is what pretty much kills a ball club. It's unfortunate. So that's kind of the Mets Braves little rant. Listen. Let's get into the Mets National Series. So Mets are going into the last 3 games in the last series of their regular season before the playoffs. So that's going to be super exciting to see. Obviously, the Mets are going home to play their final set against the Washington Nationals. Obviously, the Mets 98-61, 51-27 at home. Trying to just keep alive, get 100 wins, I guess the accomplishment that they would shoot for. Washington Nationals 55-104, 29-49 on the road, so not the best numbers. Obviously, tonight's start, 7:10 Eastern Standard. Obviously, Carlos Cookie Carrasco will be on the bump for the New York Mets. Obviously, Carrasco looking for a big outing. Obviously, 15-7 on the season, 3.95 ERA, 1.32 WHIP, 148 innings pitched, 149 strikeouts. When it comes to Carrasco, I think most importantly, this outing is going to determine if he is going to pitch in the playoffs. If we see an unfortunate outing from Carrasco, I think that's pretty much going to mean, okay, Carrasco, you're probably not going to be starting this postseason. We're going to honestly have to see. Biggest thing with Carrasco is get out of that first inning cleanly. We saw against the Marlins and, the past other series that Carrasco has really struggled in. Get out of that first inning. Get out of the first inning cleanly. Keep that slider intact. Keep that pitch count low early on. We know that was a little bit of a contributing factor to his downfall last outing. So, we're really going to have to see how it goes. So, yeah, like I said, Carrasco will be on the bump for the New York Mets. Obviously, for the Washington Nationals, they will have Corey Abbott, obviously former Chicago Cub. Not really much to look into there. Obviously, the lineup is out tonight, so I guess I'll kind of briefly go over it. So, yeah, looking at this lineup, obviously, leading off in center field, we have Brandon Nimmo. Batting second, the shortstop, Francisco Lindor. Batting third, the second baseman, Jeff McNeil. Batting fourth in cleanup, the first baseman, Pete Alonso. Batting fifth, the third baseman, Eduardo Escobar. Batting sixth in the DH hole, Daniel Vogelbach. Batting seventh, the left fielder, Mark Canha. Batting eighth, the right fielder, Tyler Naquin. And, of course, batting ninth, behind the plate, catching Tomas Nido. So, a little bit of an interesting lineup. Obviously, McNeil third, Lindor second. Obviously, like I said, with Marte's absence, the first 2, 3, 4 guys in the lineup are going to be a little bit different. Definitely dig in the, Alonso 4, Escobar 5. I like that. Like I said, the bottom of your lineup is really, questionable. I mean, can you trust Naquin? Can you trust Nido? Canha has been inconsistent like crazy. Vogelbach is really hit or miss, I feel. He had a good game, in the Braves series, but otherwise, how much could you take? I mean, Escobar is coming off Player of the Month. I just saw he won Player of the Month for the NL. Congratulations to him. But yeah, this lineup is, it's definitely, a little bit interesting without Marte. Like I said, when one of your table setters goes down, that affects the rest of your lineup. For the whole season, we were used to a lineup with Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, Alonso, Escobar, McNeil, Canha, it's that simple order. So, yeah. We're really gonna have to see how this lineup goes, especially even for the playoffs, obviously. That is tonight's game, 7:10 Eastern Standard. Game 2, which is tomorrow. Obviously, Taijuan Walker will be on the bump for the New York Metropolitans. Obviously, that is a 7:10 Eastern Standard start. Walker, also another big outing. This is going to determine, are they going to have trust in him to play in the postseason? Obviously, Walker, taking a look-see at Walker, he is 12-5 in the season, 3.59 ERA, 1.20 WHIP, 153 innings pitched with 122 strikeouts. Obviously, biggest thing with Walker is going to be obviously the splitter slider, the split finger. If you keep the velocity on that, like I said, big velocity increase on the split finger compared to last season. He's throwing it harder. He's getting a lot more swinging and misses. Splitter sliders getting a lot of ground balls. So that's something we've been seeing with Walker, obviously, compared to last season. So a lot less barrels, a lot of light contact is what we're getting from Walker. Whether that's some singles, I get it. 15 homers on the season. That's not horrible. But it's also not like really, really dominant. But yeah, he's been good with limiting the barrels and the hard contact. Like I said, fastball slider combination, split finger, keep the velocity there, pound the strike zone. Like I said, find command of the strike zone. We could definitely expect a really good outing from Taijuan Walker. Like I said, it's going to be a really important outing from him. Most importantly, considering this is going to be, do you have trust in him in the playoffs? Yes or no? So we'll see how things go for Walker there. That'll be tomorrow's start, and he will be going against Pablo Espino, who his numbers are also not that great. So we're not really gonna go much into him. Obviously, the Nationals do all have righties, so that is obviously a plus. They don't have to worry about facing a lefty going into this series, because we know how the Mets have always seemingly been struggling against left-handed pitching, so we don't have to worry about that. And then getting into Game 3 and the final game of this 3-game set and the final game of the 2022 Mets season, Game 162 is finally here. That'll be Sunday's game at 4:10, or Wednesday's game, my apologies, at 4:10 Eastern Standard Time. Obviously, the Nationals will have Eric Fetty. Mets starter is undecided. It's questionable. I mean, obviously, the Mets will most likely be in a wild card spot unless a miracle happens. So that kind of means, it's supposed to be DeGrom's day. Are you going to put Degrom out there? Would you rather have Degrom out there, or simply enough, would you rather have Degrom well rested? Personally, me, I would just say simply enough, put a guy like Peterson, whether you go for an opener type role, unless it's, determining the division and some miracle the Braves lose the next two and the Mets win the next two, unless it's something like that. But like I said, I don't picture that happening. But yeah, I would say go for something like that. Don't even waste Degrom or Scherzer that appearance. Let him be fully rested for that wild card series. Most likely against the Padres. It's seemingly how it would be as of now. So most likely just wait off until then is probably the smartest thing that both of these ball clubs, or that this ball club could simply enough do. So yeah, I guess we're really just gonna have to, wait and see who the number 3 starter is going to be in this series. So it's going to be an exciting series. Obviously, getting into it, like I said, I went over each team's slash lines and numbers. 3 guys to keep an eye out for in this series. I think number 1 is going to definitely be Jeff McNeil. For starters, Jeff McNeil by far has been raking insanely lately. Jeff McNeil had a phenomenal series against the Braves. Obviously, he had 7 hits in 3 games. I mean, that is mind-boggling right there. Taking a look-see at Jeff McNeil's numbers in the last 7 games. In 30 at-bats, he has 5 runs, 14 hits, a homer, 2 ribbies, 2 walks, a 467 average, a 500 OVP, and a 567 slugging. So he's been hitting the ball well. He's not striking out. He's getting bat to ball contact, slaps the ball. That's what he is. Like I said, no more of that launch angle, foolish swing, uppercut swing. Just bat to ball contact, and those 14 hits in the last 7 games are paying it off. And obviously going back 15, 30 games, still elite numbers. So I think McNeil is going to continue to have a great series against the Nationals. Number 2, I'm going to go with a little bit of an interesting guy here. I think I practically choose him every one, but I'll just go for it for the sake of it. And he's also having, great last 7 games, and that is Pete Alonso. I get it. He didn't have the most interesting series against the Braves. A couple base hits, a couple walks, but wasn't able to get the job done big time. We're definitely seeing a little bit of a power surge from Alonso, seeing him go the other way a lot more. He had a couple hard hit balls in the Braves series that went the opposite way, but found a glove or went foul. But last 7 games, Alonso was 27 at bats, with that being 8 runs, 9 hits, 3 homers, 10 ribbies, 3 walks, and of course a 333 average, a 400 OBP, and a 741 slugging. So yeah, obviously Alonso is definitely looking really good. He's definitely been raking like crazy. He's been hitting the ball well, definitely being more cognizant with the check swings, whether that's being the slider in the dirt. So he's really being much more selective and is being cognizant on his approach in the batter's eyes, in the batter's box. So good to see from Alonso. So he's my number 3 guy to keep an eye out for. And he's my second guy. And number 3, I'm going to continue with the National League Player of the Month of September, and that is Eduardo Escobar, who has been doing really well. Obviously, had a phenomenal September. NL Player of the Month, finishing off strong. Like I said, Escobar last 7 games, 29 at bats, a run, 10 hits, a homer, 8 ribbies, a walk, 345 average, 367 OVP, and a 483 slugging. Strikeouts are still there. Obviously, 9 strikeouts in the last 7 games, so he's pretty much striking out once per game. But hey, he's getting at least a hit or 2 per game, so I'll definitely take that. It's going the opposite way a lot more. You like to see that from Escobar. He had 2 opposite field hits yesterday, so hopefully he can continue to keep capitalizing off of that. That's going to be very important. But yeah, like I said, that is Eduardo Escobar. I think he'll have a great final 3 games to his season. And like I said with Escobar, he had really unfortunate season, really for the most part, more bad than good. With Escobar, he had a really unfortunate April, May, June, July, and August. He had like that one good week in like June and July or whatever it was, July against the Rangers, but for the most part, just wasn't able to get the job done. And like I said, with Escobar, simply enough, if he is, had an unfortunate season, if he could, like I said, have a great October, get this team far in the playoffs, I think everyone will just think of that and forget about how he played for the first, 5 months of this season. So yeah, like I said, we're going to see how things go. So now we're going to get into some of your guys' comments, questions, concerns, anything related to the Mets, the Phillies, the Braves, anything related to MLB related. I know it says Mets talk with Hayden, but in reality, it's really just baseball talk with Hayden. So if you guys have anything, drop it below. Don't hesitate. So what's going on, everyone? Alex, Gio, Liam says Rage talk with Hayden. Yeah, not anymore, but maybe. Mad Mike Sports and Entertainment. What's going on, man? Let me take this off. I appreciate you tuning in, man. Hope you're doing well. He says, what do you think needs to be done to ensure this never happens again? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways that this could have been prevented. I know a lot of people get annoyed when I say this, but the trade deadline. I think the trade deadline was a big factor to what happened to the Mets in the second half. Simply enough, still not, the Mets are still in the same spot with not having a reliable DH. The Mets went into the season with the DH of obviously Robbie Cano and JD Davis and, maybe a couple other guys in the mix. And then now it still feels like you really have Cano DHing because, I mean, what was Ruff doing? I mean, simply enough, Vientos, hasn't really been doing a whole lot. Alvarez for the, 2 days. And, I mean, looking at the bigger picture, what has Ruff been doing in the DH hole? What has Naquin mainly been doing in the DH hole? I mean, it's DH hole is still kind of unproductive, I feel. So I think for starters, I think having that gap was definitely a big drag for this lineup, and it was really an automatic out aside with the catcher's position, which is another thing that Epler really kind of just fell asleep on at the deadline. And that's kind of why the Mets lost some important games against the Cubs, against the Nationals, whatever, even against the Braves, because that DH spot in the catcher's position either couldn't hit or McCann was letting balls past him, whatever. So, I mean, just like I said, little stuff like that was a big reason why the Mets kind of took the L. So, I mean, most importantly, how could this never happen again? Be cognizant, at the trade deadline, Billy Epler. That's really all I'm going to say. Talking Mets with Rob, I appreciate you tuning in, man. Rob says, this has been such a good season to have a terrible performance against the Braves for the division. Now have to figure out our way fast for the wild card Friday. Yeah, I mean, like I said, only so often do you see two teams that have 100+ wins, most likely, in the same division. I mean, it's only happened so many times in MLB history. I mean, like I said, last year, NL West, Dodgers, Giants, 107, 106 wins. One game determined that division. And we're probably going to see that with at least one or two here, most likely. So it's unfortunate. This team had a lot of great miracles, whether that's combined no-hitter, ninth inning comebacks against the Phillies and Cardinals, whether it's the dozens of walk-offs, whether it's the dozens of homers, great defensive plays, hits, comebacks, catches, whatever. This was a great year. It's not over, obviously. There's plenty of more. There's a month more of baseball left, and that's the playoffs. And the Mets definitely have plenty more games to play in the playoffs, hopefully, in the 3 games in this season. But, it's unfortunate that you get this many wins to only be a wild card spot. And just this last thing to address with the, Mets and Braves. When it came to the Braves, like I said, I give them props. I give the Atlanta Braves props. They did what they did. They have a smart GM. They have great players that are able to succeed. They made the correct calls with the farm system, calling those guys up and ultimately having success. I give them a tip of the cap to that. And hey, they did some of this without some guys like Ozzie Albies and Mike Soroka. I mean, really tip of the cap to them. They had a phenomenal season and still are. Hey, it took them, listen, it took them, 4 months to catch back 10 games? So it's not a collapse, obviously. But, yeah, tip of the cap to the Braves, respect for them, obviously. They did what any good ball club should really do. Trey, what's going on? Alex, Eric, what's going on? Gio, Ibindos, Mark, Cal, Mad Mike Sports and Entertainment says, question, what do you think our odds are of taking back the division in the final series? It's really small. I mean, the Braves just need to win one more game and you're in. Only possible scenario that I guess you get the division is if the Mets win the next 3 and the Braves lose the next 2 or 3. But even if, because the Braves took so they still have it. So the Braves have to get swept pretty much, and the Mets have to sweep, which I think that is very rare. Michael, what's going on? Yeah, I mean, just really going over Mets and Braves series. The unfortunate with the Mets there, obviously the Atlanta Braves. You had the Braves jersey back there, definitely taking advantage of this series. And then, of course, we went over the Mets Nationals and, Mets playoffs hopes and all that great stuff. Rip, I feel you, Liam. Trey says, not only do the players need to reset and be ready for Friday, so do us fans. This weekend has sucked all the energy and hope out of me. Yeah, I mean, I feel you, man. It's crazy. And I put this out on Snapchat last night with one of my friends. It's crazy how a sports team could really interpret your mood for the week. Lane, what's going on? Lane, appreciate you tuning in. Lane says, do you see the Mets beating the Nationals in 3 games at home? It's possible. At least take 2 of 3. I'd like them to get to 100 wins this season. Yeah. Kobe, what's going on? Kobe says the Mets have to reset and get ready for Friday. It's a tougher road, but still it's in front of them. Yeah, like I said, the Mets definitely do have plenty of more work to do. The work is not done. The season's not over. The Mets did not collapse like Twitter is saying. They have plenty more stuff to do. They have plenty more important games to go, plenty important, appearances from starting pitchers, plenty more great hits, home runs, more great stuff to come this season, obviously, or postseason, I should say. Cal, what's going on, man? Jacob, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in, man. He says, glad Escobar is the NL player of the month for September. Yeah, Escobar really deserved it. He really had a good September, really phenomenal numbers, great metrics, looked good offensively, really tightening up his swing. He claimed that he changed up his stance, and that's kind of what made him a different hitter. I visually don't see it, but I guess I take his word on it. So, yeah, like I said, really tip of the cap to Eduardo Escobar for having a really good September. Definitely a needed appearance. Alex says, I'll be happy with 100 wins in a wild card sweep. Oh, of course, man. Karen, what's going on? Michael says, can't wait to see the Mets finally play baseball in late October. And then, that's the thing. I mean, the Mets are in the playoffs. Something that we haven't seen since, 2016? There's so many teams out there who have these playoff droughts. Look at the Seattle Mariners. They just made the wild card. They broke their playoff drought for 21 years. Last time they made the playoffs was 2001. I was born in 2002. So, I mean, imagine if I was a Seattle Mariners fan. Do you think the first thing that would be going in my mind is, damn it, we didn't win the division. Oh, my goodness, the Astros did. Or, oh, my God, we made the playoffs. I get it. If you're a team like the Yankees or the Cardinals, whatever, a team that consistently makes the playoffs, yes, your end goal is the World Series. It's World Series or bust. Deal with the Mets. They do have that mentality still because the talent they have and the payroll, obviously, but they haven't been in the playoffs with any of these guys, really. So, yeah, just get to the playoffs and whole different ball game there. No pun intended. Cal says, Mets disappointed this series. Buck, bullpen, and offense made poor decisions and poor production. 100%, man. Can't agree with you anymore. Hopefully we can do it in October, says Connor. Yeah, hopefully. Trey says they should start by trying to hit the ball past the infield. At this point, they may as well try to bunt their way around the bases. Losing Marte is big, but it should not throw a first-place team completely into disarray to the point where they are losing to last place team like Oakland. I think this is a 3-parter. The fact they traded away JD Davis for zero reason is also coming back to haunt them as well. Yeah, I mean, like I said, right now, I mean, look at Davis. He's having a pretty decent outing against the in San Francisco with the Giants. He's looking pretty good. And obviously he did not do anything really with the Mets for the most part. And look what's happening. He is having a really good outing out in San Francisco. We're seeing that 2019 opposite field power out of him. We're seeing him go the other way. We're seeing him hit a fastball, believe it or not. He's looking much better. And I guess that's just the unfortunate trade there. You got Ruff, who's not doing anything. He's not doing jack diddly squat. And you got rid of JD Davis, who is now breaking out. And I think that was kind of expected with Davis. I think a lot of people expected him to be traded to a team and then just immediately burst out with talent. I mean, you can make the same argument with guys like Conforto. So yeah, we're gonna have to see what the future goes for Darren Ruff and JD Davis. Santiago, what's going on, man? Chris, what's going on? Christopher, what's going on? I mean, He says, how are the Mets going to beat the Padres, Dodgers, and Braves, then get to the World Series? I don't know, man. I'll never have the attitude. I'll never have the defeatist attitude, though. Yeah, I mean, listen, the world playoffs, anything could happen. I mean, you look at teams, like I said, Padres also, they don't really have much playoff, experience there. I mean, guys like Darvish, okay, sure, maybe when they, with the Cubs or what sort, but they also don't have the most playoff experience too. So I guess that's kind of an equal thing there with them and the Mets. Obviously, Darvish has phenomenal numbers against the Mets, which is really what you do worry about. But really, right now, when I think it comes to really when it comes to it, right now, anything could happen. When it comes to the Dodgers, I mean, keep in mind the Mets went 4-3 against the Dodgers this year. I mean, look at 2019. Who Nationals beat them in the division matchup? They weren't projected to. They weren't expected to. I mean, look at last year. The Braves beat them. I mean, Dodgers have a tendency to choke in the playoffs, but any team could have a tendency to choke. The best team in baseball, usually the team that has the most wins, never even wins the World Series. I mean, last year that didn't happen. 2020, did the Dodgers have the most wins in 2020? I don't know. Did the Dodgers have the most wins in 2020? Well, that was a shit season, so no one cares about that. They may have, actually. Oh, no, it was the Rays. Or maybe – oh, no, it was them. Well, 2020 was interesting. 2019, Nationals. They, Astros had the most wins. They lost the World Series. 2018, Red Sox. Okay, so I mean, there's a few examples in the mix, I guess. But yeah, like I said, it's something you don't really want to, I guess, count on too much when it comes to the win-loss stuff. But it's possible. But I think with this team, I think there's a lot of flaws, and it would definitely be very frustrating. Sports fans says credit to the Braves for playing out their mind since June. Their lineup, I think, is the most loaded in baseball. Yeah, it's definitely one of the most talented teams in baseball. I think lineup-wise and definitely pitching staff-wise, they definitely do have some great talent. So yeah, I mean, I give them props too. I give credit where credit is earned, and they definitely earned their respect and credit. Talking Mets with Rob, what's going on? He says, thank you. Don't listen to Braves fans trolling us the same way that they beat the Padres and Cubs in 2015. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's a good point. And I said it before. Obviously, you look at 2015. Cubs won 6-0 against the Mets. Who won in the NLCS? We swept them. Mets swept them. So, I mean, I get it. The Mets, were what? 2-4 against San Diego, 2-5, whatever against San Diego this season. But postseason regular season stats don't really take much into the postseason. Appreciate you tuning in, Rob. I'm doing well. That's why I still have hope, Rob. No white flag waiver here. Yeah, I mean, I'm not throwing the white flag in yet. Thomas, what's going on? Thomas says Mcneil needs to hit 2 if Marte doesn't come back. Yeah, I really would like to see Mcneil. I honestly have no problem with Mcneil leading off. I mean, we've been seeing how great he's been offensively in that leadoff. Or really, Mcneil's hitting all over in this lineup. First, second, third, fourth. So really, I have no problem with Mcneil hitting first, considering how kind of quiet Nimmo has been in the leadoff spot this season. He's definitely been he's swinging more, and I have no problem with him swinging more. But that means the walks are going down. He's getting a lot of ground balls to the first base side. So in result, I have no problem with that. But I'd rather a leadoff guy be like more so Mcneil, high on base percentage. So, Mcneil could, Nimmo could still do that, but maybe bat him second or a little bit lower in the order. Kobe says, what's next for the Mets after getting swept by the Braves? Yeah, I mean, right now what seems to be next is National Series, and unfortunately, I'll have to face the Padres most likely in the wild card matchup. And I mean, simply enough, you're going to see, a 1-2-3 punch that is going to be surrounded with the Mets by Jacob Degrom, Max Scherzer, Chris Bassett. What we just saw this series, and it unfortunately let the Mets down. And then, of course, for the San Diego Padres, let's take a look-see at their 1-2-3 punch. I'd imagine it's like Darvish, Snell. Not really a big Padres. I don't really watch many Padres games, so I couldn't tell you their lineup or their order. So, yeah, I mean, you then be looking at that punch of Darvish, Musgrove, and Snell. Obviously, the Mets do have good numbers against Snell. I know he is a lefty, but he is, one of the few lefties in the league they do have good numbers against. Obviously, Musgrove, Mets have gotten out a couple times, but Darvish has definitely owned the Mets, even back when he was a Cub. So we're going to have to see how the Mets could allegedly go against that. I mean, projections-wise, I think the Mets have the better rotation, but what we've seen against the Braves this past series, it's been rough. They look good. I think it's the number one thing is the offense. Can they score the runs for them? Let's go. Absolutely. Christopher says Mets need to finish strong and focus on the Nationals. Always focus on yourself. 100%. I don't want the Mets going into this series, focused on what happened yesterday, and then that lets the game get away from them. You obviously don't want them to have that. That would be that would be unfortunate. You obviously don't want that. Rob's a great guy. Mad Mike Sports and Entertainment says, looking at the 2023 schedule, we have an easy first 2 months and an easy September. Yeah, let's look at it for the sake of it. We have a couple minutes that I'd like to kill on the stream. So let's look at the Mets 2023 schedule. It's also hard. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen in free agency. But I mean, you look at it, the regular season. First half, it's not horrible. I mean, Miami, Milwaukee, Miami, San Diego. Season starts off interesting. I mean, you have a couple interesting matchups. I mean, obviously, you play a lot of games against the Marlins at first. But yeah, I mean, you're going to have games against, the A's, Giants, the Nationals, the Tigers, the Rockies, the Reds, the Nationals, Cubs, Rockies. May is going to be, I think, an interesting month. But like I said, it's really going to depend what all these teams do in free agency. Trey says, I said it before, I'll say it again. In the playoffs, the 7, 8, 9 hole in the lineup will be the X factor for us, regardless who's there. 100%. We saw this Brave series. They did not hit. Appreciate it, guys. Christopher says, I still like Vogelbach. I don't know. He makes me laugh. Yeah, I mean, I think he's shown some potential, but I get a little frustrated. It gets frustrating with him sometimes. You gotta, we'll see how things go with Vogelbach. Personally, I don't see him with this Mets team next year, but you never know. Connor says Mets need a power spike, not enough long ball. Yeah, and that's what seems to kill them. Listen, a baseball teams can succeed if they're, singles and doubles hitter with great speed, which the Mets have, but, getting 7 singles and only driving in 2 runs versus a team that's going to get 3 hits and 4 homers, or 3 hits and 2 homers, how much are you going to get off of that? Cal says this series is about starting pitching, most notably our 2 aces letting us down. We set up our rotation for the series and they let us down. Rough weekend. Yeah, it's unfortunate, Cal. Kobe, 100%. I agree with you. He says Starling Marte makes a difference in the lineup, no doubt. Yeah, 100%. I mean, simply enough, having any table setter guy go down and no longer be with the team for a little bit is automatically going to affect your lineup. 100%. Guys like Lindor, Alonso, Marte, Nimmo are going to affect your lineup. Mcneil. If it's a guy like, maybe McCann or Ruff, what is that? It's not going to mean anything. Like the Polar Bears, of course. Trey says, do you think the Mets recover from this? I mean, I think it's kind of really set and finished for the most part. Timothy says, Hayden, will the Mets get revenge on the Braves in the NLCS? We'll see. It's possible. Christopher says, I'm still excited for the playoffs. When my team has a chance, I'm having fun. Baseball is supposed to be fun. 100%. Yeah, Chris, and I agree with you on that. I mean, like I said, Mets are in the playoffs, something that, a lot of Mets fans are not acting like it. Mets fans are acting like we just literally missed the playoffs yesterday or got eliminated from the playoffs. It's not the case. The Mets have been having really a phenomenal season. It's just things got rough in September. You lost some games that mattered, and then obviously this was a big series that kind of really took the L on both of these teams. So we'll see. But yeah, like I said, Mets are still in the playoffs. I'm still happy. Mad Mike Sports and Entertainment says, Hayden, make like you're the GM. Who would you go after this free? Who would you go after? Who would you go after in free? Hayden, make like you're the GM. Who would you go after in free agent this year? In the free agent market, let's see who's out there. Let's see who is out there. MLB free agent market. Because I'm curious who's really out there. Trevor Bauer's out there. Interesting. Well, Arenado got an extension, so I don't know because it doesn't say who has an extension. I mean, obviously, you know the big guys: Judge, Turner, JD Martinez. I think Kershaw's on a 1-year deal. A lot of veterans, a lot of relief pitchers, a lot of bench players. In terms of really who I'd like to go after, did the Padres extend Josh Bell? Have the Cubs. Honestly, one interesting thing that wouldn't be horrible. I mean, I get it. You know, I kind of guess it comes into question with Francisco Alvarez, but you do have Wilson Contreras. I mean, depending on if the Mets want to establish full trust in Alvarez next season, or maybe have dual time with him and Nito, and then does that make Nito your kind of top dog type of guy with Alvarez? I don't think they would have a 3-man catching arsenal. I say you just probably say sayonara to James McCann. That's another story. So maybe a guy like, Wilson Contreras. Some starting pitching will definitely be needed. Obviously, bringing back Degrom is going to be definitely a top priority, along with Nimmo. Those are going to be two definitely big, important assets. Yeah, definitely two big, important assets as always. Maybe a guy like Carlos Rodon could be a decent addition. There's a lot of starting pitching is going to be one. Bullpen, most importantly. You're going to want a big power bat. We'll see. I mean, are the Mets going to have, Vientos, Beatty, and Alvarez, those three, up at the MLB level in April of next season? Will they make it out of spring training? I have a feeling in April or, in spring training and, in February and March, we're all going to be sitting on here saying, is Beatty, Vientos, and Alvarez, are all three of those guys or any of those guys specifically going to make the roster this season to start off? Randy, what's going on? He says, respect to Mets fans. Good luck, Braves fan for life. Appreciate you tuning in, Randy. Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you this. You guys showed up the series big time, and tip of the cap to y'all. You guys did great. We'll see. That's funny. Cal, what's going on? He says, who would have thought people would be upset with 98 wins and possibility for 100? Yeah, no one. Trey says, Epler missed 2 moves at the break. No lefty in the pen and not upgrading catching position. I'd rather bat Degrom than McCann or Nito. He'd hit a higher average and about the same power. Yeah, I said that before, and I agree. Gregory says, let's hope the big three are disappointed in themselves and it motivates them in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know if you're referring to the big I'm assuming is the big three is the rotation: Degrom, Scherzer, and Bassett, and I hope so. And I hope the same goes for guys like Lindor, who had a bad series, some of the offensive pieces too. So yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a really interesting next couple of weeks. But hey, Mets are in the playoffs. Mets will be playing the Padres in the postseason, so that's always fun. Yeah, 2020, no one talks about. Appreciate you tuning in, Alex. Michael says this year's NL East division is just like last year's NL West. 100%. I mean, like I said, you can't create your family with these divisions. Timothy says the Mets will sweep the Padres in 2 in the NL Wildcard Series, sweep the Dodgers in 3 in the NLDS, sweep the Braves in 4 in the NLCS, and sweep the Yankees in 4 in the World Series. Timothy, if that happens, I will buy you anything you want. I will buy you any car you want. But hey, listen, I'm definitely down for some hot takes. Kobe says, I'm hearing that Brett Beatty may be returning soon. Yeah, Beatty, he is feeling a little bit better since his little surgery. Do I think he'll be in the playoffs? Maybe they could put him in as a DH substitute type guy. Cal says, will Jeff McNeil win the batting title? Yeah, I honestly think that we can realistically see Jeff McNeil win the batting title. Obviously, him and Freddie Freeman are really kind of tied up. Freddie Freeman's batting at 327. Jeff McNeil is batting 326. So I think it's certainly possible. I mean, if McNeil has 3 games to play, he's been hitting great lately. I mean, he had 7 hits in 3 games against the Braves. So if he could do that and Freeman does, I guess, just what he's been doing, boom. I mean, you got Freddie Freeman kind of crowning there. Alex says, what's the Mets' biggest strength and weakness in the postseason? Mets' biggest strength and weakness in the postseason, in my opinion, probably be something around the lines of like probably the inconsistencies offensively, I'd say. And strength, probably the depth, the rotation depth. Kobe says, who should be the number 4 starter? I said it a lot, but I said Walker. Gregory says, what will the Mets rotation look like against the Padres? So right now, I would say the rotation would be Degrom, Scherzer, Bassett. Lane says, do you think the Mets game will be rained out tonight? Why am I looking out the window? I don't even live in New York. Weather. Flushing. Weather talk with Hayden. Oh, is it seriously raining? Bro. Are you serious? It's light showers. And then 8, it's going to rain. Yeah, shit. Well, thing is, you really can't make it up unless you have a doubleheader. And then tomorrow, it's also going to rain. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, you really can't have a doubleheader. Just hope the rain cools because I need to watch the Mets do something tonight. I can't mentally deal with last night still. Let's see. I'm going to go on my weather app. Maybe that'll be a little bit more sufficient. Keep in mind, I live in Florida, so obviously the weather is completely different. I should have Flushing on my weather thing, considering, well, it's just going to give me New York. So, yeah. It's gonna rain, but the question is like, is it gonna pour or just drizzle? We'll see. I haven't seen much in regards to cancellations, so we'll see. Lane says, do you think the Mets play the Dodgers in the playoffs? Yeah, if they win the wild card, I think it's possible. Yes, second place. That is correct. Yeah, Cardinals. The Cardinals most likely, unless they, yeah, because they're still 6-hole. So we are probably going to call it a stream here, everyone. We are a little bit over at the hour and 10 mark. So we're probably going to call it a stream in regards to today. I really, really do appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream. As always, we had phenomenal stream, phenomenal viewership. You guys have been killing it with the comments lately. I really do appreciate you guys for all the great comments, questions, concerns that you guys have been dropping below in the chat. It's always been phenomenal. Keep it up. Love it. Absolutely love it. Postseason is here, obviously. I am debating on streaming some playoff games. Keep an eye out for that. I'll see how my time is. I am home now, obviously, because I am home probably for next couple days. I'll probably be going back later in this week. So like I said, it's kind of hard, you know, when it comes to streaming for like 4 hours at school. You know, things can get a little loud. Obviously, simply enough, living in a frat house, things can get loud. And, you know, if my roommate, I feel bad kind of, you know, telling him, you know, hey, like, can you be quiet for 3 hours? I don't want to do that to him. So I'll see. I definitely will like to stream some games. World Series 100%, but I'll definitely hopefully stream a couple playoff games. That'll definitely be something that I will be exploring. And yeah, that's overall, I guess, really all I have to say. I really do appreciate everyone for tuning into today's stream. As always, it's been phenomenal. I guess to kind of say it out, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. In today's stream, we went over the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves series summarizing that. Then, of course, we went over the New York Mets and the Washington Nationals series preview. Then, obviously, a little bit of Mets farm system news. What went wrong with the Mets? What's going well with the Mets? The NL East, the Braves. Your guys' comments, questions, concerns, which are always great. and of course, all of that fun stuff, which I really do appreciate you guys for always chiming in and leaving those great comments. Yeah, so overall, I really do appreciate it. And yeah, otherwise, if you guys do want to follow me on social media, I know it says it on the outro, but follow me on social media. It's my Instagram. I don't really post on it a whole lot, but hey, you could have it. Why not? I don't really care. And then obviously my Twitter at Mets Hayden. That's kind of where I post a little bit beforehand if I'll be streaming. And yeah, if you guys want to, DM, chat, talk baseball, talk whatever, you can definitely do that. Otherwise, yeah, let's go Mets. I really do appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like I said, please everyone smash that like button, turn on those post notifications so you never miss a stream or video. Tell your friends about this channel, obviously, so we can get out there. I know it says Mets talk, but it's really just baseball talk overall. And yeah, like I said, if you're rewatching this on replay, kudos to you for sticking out for the hour and 12-minute mark. Definitely you're a legend for tuning in till then. And yeah, otherwise, I will see you guys in the next stream for, game 160, 161, and game 162 are here. Can't believe the season is really about finished. I mean, I remember getting on here in April, worrying about how the season would be, and we're here now in the playoffs. So yeah, Mets Nationals 3-game series coming up, and then the postseason. So otherwise, appreciate everyone for tuning in. Till next time, baseball fans, see ya.